Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Rslash Regular Revenge. In today's episode, bank manager harassed me and my service dog, corporate finds it very interesting. Geeky gym student avenged by quiet kid. I quit. They had to hire 4 people to replace me. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Bank manager harassed me and my service dog, corporate finds it very interesting. Some backstory. I'm a 26 years old non-binary disabled person with a service dog in training. Let's call him Buddy. Now, at this point in time, Buddy is trained to alert to my high heart rate so I don't faint on the spot. He is also trained to do deep pressure therapy to even out my blood pressure and heart rate. Those are his 2 main tasks, but he does more. For those not savvy with service dog laws, to be considered a service dog under the federal ADA law, handler must have a disability, and dog must know at least 1 task. Asterisk important note on laws in my state in the US. Service dogs in training have the same rights as a fully trained service dog. They can go anywhere, do anything, train anywhere the public is allowed. And under no circumstances can they be discriminated against. On to the story. Buddy was in the midst of his first year of training, takes 2 to 3 years, and my partner and I co-trained him with our professional trainer's help. We were taking him to new places in his public access training, and that day we decided to practice at the local credit union. I had an account there, so I figured, why not? We arrived and Buddy was in a perfect heel at my side. We wanted to practice him laying under my legs while I'm sitting in a chair, so I gently smiled at a bank employee to get her attention. She walked over, introduced herself as a manager, and immediately started talking to Buddy, not me. This is a huge no-no. I tried to get her attention, no go. She talked to Buddy. Him being young and in training, he got excited. I swiftly corrected him with a leave it. And the manager finally looked at me. I then kindly asked if I could use the chairs in the public lobby to practice our training. She froze, then said no, I can't let you do that. Only certified service dogs allowed. That's BS for several reasons. There's no legal certification, so it's against the law to ask. But I was ready and quickly told her actually in this state, service dogs in training have the same rights as fully trained ones. She stuttered for an answer, and said well, he can stay then. I didn't want to push it, so I said okay, well, we can just do other training here then. She immediately got all huffy and retorted, I can't let you do any training here. That's not allowed in the building. Knowing this was a clear violation of my rights, I made a BS excuse that I needed to check a transaction, just to stay there. She was standing right behind us, every step. She wanted to kick us out. For having a service dog. At the bank booth teller, I asked her to look up a menial transaction I knew took out earlier in the month that was for a large amount, stating that the company never sends me a receipt, so could you please print that, etc. etc. All in all, between finding it and getting printers to work, it took roughly 30 minutes. The whole time, I was training Buddy how to handle staying in one place for a transaction and ignoring other people. After I got my paper, I profusely thanked the teller who was so kind to me and shot the manager a look. She then asked if that was all I needed and if I'd be going. I thought about doing some petio, I'm wondering if I can refinance my car kinda thing, but Buddy was getting bored, so I just replied no thank you. And left. She did not say goodbye or have a nice day. After that horrible experience, I knew I had to do something to get back at her. And I knew this credit union cares more about its customers. So, I called the corporate customer complaints line. Took me less than a minute to get a kind gentleman other phone. I told him the entire issue of the trip, stating every ADA law and state statute she had broken. He said, I'll look into this real quick. Put me on hold maybe 5 minutes. When he came back, he had not only dug up every law I mentioned, but saw that yes, from my account, she broke them all. He stated, "This is very serious, I can't just let this go." I asked what would happen. He said likely, a higher-up would come educate all staff on ADA guidelines and accommodating disabled customers. I was satisfied with that, told him thank you and hung up. 6 months later to today. My service dog just left yesterday to do intensive training at his professional trainer's house, so no dog with me. I had to deposit some cash, so off to the credit union I go. I walk inside, get next in line to see the teller, and it's her. Stupid mean manager got demoted to regular bank teller. I smiled so hard when it was my turn to walk up to her booth. She didn't recognize me at all. I almost bust out in maniacal laughter. Instead, I complimented her hair. Transaction over, I walk out, see a new, friendlier manager at the door who wishes me a nice day. Wait, so you're legally allowed to do training anywhere you go? Are they allowed to limit what you can do at all? Some states don't protect service dogs in training, but mine does. But basically, yes. They can't kick you out for it. If you're training your dog a new task, too bad. You can sue if they kick you without good reason. Only reasons under ADA law are if the dog is out of control and handler is not taking any measure to stop it. Dog is not potty trained. Or if dog is aggressive. Shoot, I work retail pharmacy, I didn't know that about training service animals. But I figure it's the greatest thing to do. First off, due to exposure therapy for the dog, great customer service. Plus it gives me something else to do, either by just watching, or by helping in any way possible. A guy has brought 3 different dogs he's been training into my store. She wanted to kick us out for having a service dog. Did I read this wrong, or did you not actually have any business at the bank? Because it seems to me like you didn't have any business at the bank, that you went there just to train your service dog, and she was trying to kick you out for that reason. You made up a reason afterwards checking that transaction, but at least from your story you don't mention coming into the bank to check the transaction, just to train the dog. So am I reading this wrong, or were you upset at this lady for wanting you to have a legitimate reason to be at the bank? OP, a private business is not your training yard. You have a right to be in there to conduct your business, but this isn't a hangout spot for you. Once you have completed your business, it's time for you to leave. The manager was perfectly reasonable considering your bizarre request to train your dog there. The manager was well within their rights to ask you to conduct business or leave. Your dog being with you had nothing to do with your situation. The original post gave off pretty strong Karen vibes. This individual obviously likes to lord it over customer-facing employees. Doesn't matter what the letter of the law was, OP was the A** hole here. How a Karen takes regular revenge. Geeky gym student avenged by quiet kid. A good friend of mine was in high school and taking gym as required. He wasn't out of shape or anything, just a lanky, slightly awkward band geek who had some friends, but not many, and came from a well-known hippie family in a smaller conservative city, which put a target on his head automatically from some, and was part of the reason he didn't have a large circle of friends. In gym class, 2 jocks who the gym teacher loved also did not like my friend. They had taunted, laughed and pointed, etc., but he ignored it, and so did the gym teacher. Seeing as my friend did not respond, they escalated their actions. Each day the class began by running laps while the teacher took attendance, then ran to the equipment room to get supplies. While the teacher was in the equipment room, the bullies would purposely fall on the floor, and then told the teacher through fake cries that my friend tripped them. He was pulled to the side and screamed at by the teacher. The bullies made a case for my friend having an issue with them to the point where when the gym teacher heard the bullies, he came out of the equipment room screaming my friend's last name. He never got detention or anything. The teacher felt the yelling was enough, and nobody dare argue with him. The gym class also had a kid we'll call Mohawk. Did well in class, stuck to the point when talking to teachers, but never spoke to any other students much, didn't want to make friends, no clubs or sports. He didn't harm other students if he needed to talk to them, he was cordial and did stuff like in-class group work just fine. He had a slightly muscular build and a tall green mohawk that distinguished him from others. After 3 days or so of the bullying, the class was running, but something was different this time. Mohawk was running behind the bullies and was getting pretty close to them. My friend was ready for the bullies to fall, but when they started, Mohawk reached out and grabbed both bullies by the back of their shirts. He then put a hand on the shoulder of each bully and pulled them close to him. Some words were said from Mohawk, but they were so quiet nobody but the bullies heard. The bullies were released and not a single incident happened again. My friend looked at Mohawk afterwards, and Mohawk just nodded in my friend's direction and carried on. That was it for memorable Mohawk moments during my friend's high school time that at least my friend knew about. However, a couple years after they graduated, Mohawk made an appearance back in their city to visit family, and some classmates spotted him at a bar. It turns out he was always set on living a simple life. He got a job with a logging company in northern Wisconsin working with a crew. He bought a small cabin home up there that has just what he needs to live independently, and was living the life he wanted to live, spending free time doing things like reading and hiking. He uses a smartphone to keep in touch with family, has no computer. My friend tried to reach out to Mohawk once he saw he had a Facebook, but the friend request to this day sits unanswered. Seeing as F did not respond, they escalated their actions. Every time I see the question, "What's the worst advice you ever heard?" my response is always the same. Ignore the bullies. They just want a reaction, and if you don't give them one, they'll get bored and leave you alone. No. As this example illustrates, they'll just escalate things until they get a reaction. The bullies I dealt with in the 70s and 80s? Yeah, bleeding counted as a reaction for them. Yep. I found out the same lesson myself. Also, telling the teacher also just made things worse. Reminds me of a classmate of mine. Troubled kid, but stood up to my bullies for me. I've always been grateful for his actions. I quit. They had to hire 4 people to replace me. I worked phone sales for a catalog company, bilingual Spanish/English. For several months I'd take the Spanish calls and translate everything to the customer on the phone while I took their order. I decided, screw this, and typed up my own little 2-page catalog in Spanish, all the most popular items, which I'd copy off and send to the customers. This was in the 1990s. My average call time went from 5 or 10 minutes per call down to 2 or 3. It also put me in the top 3 salesmen for the company for the next 3 years. I kept telling management they were missing out, but they wouldn't pay attention, so I kept sending out my little rinky-dink catalog and quintupled the Spanish sales while nobody was looking. Management still didn't get it. A manager I'll call Helen was a particular pain, and after a year, I packed up all my stuff, leaving just enough that it looked like I was coming back, signed with a temp agency, took my vacation, then called in sick until my sick days were gone, fully intending to walk in the door and quit on my return. When I came back, Helen was gone. I changed plans and stayed with the company. A year later, and a manager I'll call Helga was causing me just as much pain as Helen ever did. I packed up all my stuff, signed with the temp agency, took my vacation. Well, you get the picture. I walked in the door, and now Helga was gone, leaving me the snippiest, pettiest, most immature middle school drama-inspired parting letter I've ever seen. I decided to stay. Another year went by. More drama. It was a call center, after all, and I decided I'd finally had enough of being treated like a peon. The money was good, I was still top 3 in sales, but management was still blinder than the average bat and was now giving me a hard time about my typed, Xeroxed mini catalog. I found a job a lot closer to home, gave them my 2-week notice, sent out the last of my catalogs. The 2 part-time Spanish speakers that were on staff were immediately overwhelmed and one of them quit. They tried to hire several workers in the next few months, and most of them quit. A year later, they'd settled on a staff of 4 to do my job, and were still trying to put together a Spanish version of the catalog. I went on with my life. 6 years later, the job I'd taken moved all of its production from Latin America to China, and as I didn't speak Chinese, I was let go, with a decent severance package. A friend told me the original company was now a better place, and I applied for my old job back. I walked in for my interview, and it was the shortest, easiest interview ever. "This is just a formality, we really want you back." I worked there another 4.5 years. "This is just a formality, we really want you back." In that case, here are my conditions. Insert GIF of Dr. Evil asking for $1 million. But that's just good fortune. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.